Yeah, welcome to another session in Cal's barn. Today in this video, I'm gonna look at making some improvements on this Harbor Freight welding table. I've had two issues with it. One is it's not flat anymore. Part of that's my fault. I've taken a shrinker and stretcher and I bolt it down under this slot, and then I put a lot of force on it to stretch the metal, and that has bent this. I haven't really pounded on it. I don't know that it could take a lot of pounding. But I have used that, and that at least has bent it. Maybe other things that I've done have bent it as well. The other problem I have with it is quite often when I'm working on things, I've got tools sitting on here that vibrate. There goes the tool, or tools. All kinds of things have dropped through there, and that's gotten rather annoying. So I want to fix those two things. What I'm planning to do is to put a brace, two braces basically, on here between the slots. So one on this side, one on this side. On the top, basically that's one here, one here. And they need to be pretty solid. So the first thing I looked at was I've got some 1/2-inch square tubing, and I've got some angle iron. And I set those down on a couple of things about so far apart and put my weight on them, and they flexed quite a bit, more than I would like on this table. And then it occurred to me that I have some old scrap, very rusty 3/4 inch by 1.5 inch tubing. So I've cut a couple of pieces of that, and those are nice and sturdy. And I cut them just a little bit smaller than the gap between those two pieces of metal under here. Let me show you that again, just so it makes sense. There's two braces here, and they're just a little bit short of that. And what I'm going to do is I got to attach them. I got to attach these to those braces on the bottom, and I've got to push them up against this and get it flat. So what I'm going to do is run a bolt in from each end to the end of that. To do that, I got to do something about the open end. So I started off thinking I'll take a piece of this, I believe it's 16 gauge, and I'll weld that on the end and drill and tap into that. And I thought, well, that's pretty thin to tap into. So maybe I could weld a nut on the back. But if I weld a nut on the back, then, so I've got to line it up perfectly with a hole in this cross piece. That's going to be tough to do. So instead, what I decided to try is I took a piece of 1/4 inch bar. I cut a small piece off of that and welded it on there. Now I just welded the ends. I tacked on each end, and then I had to go back and grind most of the tack off so that it would fit inside the end. Now the tacks don't have to be strong. I don't need a strong weld. I just need something to hold it in place, so that because it'll need no load once I bolt this in, or once I bolt this in, the forces of the screw are going to pull this 1/4 inch plate up against this, so the weld doesn't have to be super strong. What I did do is before I welded it, I chamfered the 1/4 inch piece quite a bit so that there is a weld still in there even after I cut it off. I'm not just relying on the penetration. I had undercut it so that the tack was actually underneath as well. So with that, I can tack this in here, or weld this in, drill a hole in the cross piece under the table, that's under the table. I'll drill a 1/16 inch hole initially, and then once that hole's in, I can put this up tight against this piece of metal from the bottom, and drill into this to find the center of the hole here, drill and tap that, plenty of room to tap that, give me plenty of thread to a gauge, and now I should have a real good alignment. even though when I first put it in, because of the warpage on this, the part won't be sitting straight. When I attach it here, it's going to be down a little bit because of the, again, because of the warpage here. And same thing on the other side, but what I'll do is I'll put this one side up, get that tight, put the other side up, get that one set, and then I'll have to push it up and get the bolts in, and that should straighten this out. I may even straighten it out a little before I put them together. But that should get me nice and straight. Probably could just take the 1/4 inch, cut that, weld it on there, do it that way. But since I've started it the one way, I'll do them both that way. So that's the one thing I want to do. I'll work on these parts and show you what I end up with there, and then we'll see. I may go out next week and buy some sheet metal to cover this with and start looking at how I'm going to put holes in it for clamps. All right, holes are drilled in both sides. Now I have to put it all back together in order to drill through those holes somehow to line the holes up with this piece, and then I have to take it all apart again so I can finish drilling the holes. All right, I got the top back on. Let's see if I can position it. There we go. Now, here's my hole. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, I can't get a drill in there because it's above this lip. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a scribe in there, take our 1/16 inch drill, put that in. And let's see how that did. Yeah, that worked. I've got a good scribe line across there. And now I can just center that and drill and tap it. There we go, it's through the slot again. And you never know what's going to come in handy. I put a magnetic strip up here to hold tools. Wasn't too happy with it, but I never took it down. It works great right now. I got to hold this thing in place to center punch it. That magnet holds it up there very nicely. There we go. All right, I got a pilot hole drilled. Now I got to drill it out for the tap. It's supposed to have a larger drill, 17/64. I don't have one, 1/4 inch as close as I have, so I'm going to drill it and just kind of work it around a little bit. All right. Let's see, I've got to go get a tap. I'll tap that. Bought that tap handle decades ago. So it's in pretty good shape, and it's a lot better than the ones I've been getting with any taps recently. So there we go. I'm going to put this on and give it a try, make sure everything fits. All right, I got the reinforcements for my welding table done. There are 2 of them in approximately this location, and I did that partly to equally space them from the sides, and I didn't want to block this area from using the clamps. I wanted to keep that clear. So let me pull this off, and you can see what I did. So here they are, 3/4 inch by 1.5 inches. They do come up a little ways from this surface, so if you try to make one, don't make them flush with this, because of the dimples that they put in the tabletop itself to get the attaching bolts or screws flush or subflush. The dimples raise that up a little bit, so you'll have to allow for that when you make these, and I drilled 5/16 holes in the end, or 5/16 threads. I tapped them for 5/16 threads, and I drilled 5/16 holes in the end piece so that there wouldn't be any up and down slop. Took a little effort to try and get the hole in the right position, but I think it was worth it. And now I won't worry about bending that so much. All I got to do now is put the top back on, and it's now braced. And I just need to think about getting a, I think it's a 20 by 30 inch flat plate to put on top so I don't have to deal with the slots anymore. Because even while I was making these pieces, there must have been 15 or 20 times when something fell down through the slots. It gets really annoying. Actually, before I bolt it all up, I think it might be a good idea to paint them to keep them from rusting. They've already got so much rust, I'm sure that'll continue if I don't paint them. As I'm getting ready to paint these, it occurred to me that I should mention something else. When I made these, I made the overall length just a hair short of what I thought I would need. You can see on this end, I left some extra weld on there so that I could cut that down until it was just a nice fit and gave me the right distance between these mounting holes. Those are 24 inches apart. And once I put these braces in, if they're off by 1/8 of an inch, I got a problem. And I wanted a good solid brace on the end rather than putting washers on there, because the washer's a lot narrower and it would allow things to bend. I don't know if that would be a problem or not, but that's what I did just to make it a little sturdier. And all painted and ready to put the top on. A little more detail about what I had to do to get this top to fit on here properly after putting the supports in underneath it. When I first put it on, bolted it down in these 4 corners here, I noticed that this side was actually, the brace is a little bit low. You can hear it kind of clicking when I hit that. But these two were high, and in fact, here I could actually see a bump up, and I didn't want that. This side seemed to be pretty close. It's not ticking as much as this side, but I measured later, this is about a 20 thousandths gap. This is more like under 10. So that's not enough to worry about. I'm not gonna worry about that, but these were too high. So what I did, take the thing off, take this out, and drill out the holes in this side piece until I could lower it. I drilled them out a 1/16 at a time. And this one I ended up going 1/8 of an inch larger hole. This I only went a 1/16 of an inch larger hole. And that dropped it down to where now I'm getting just a little bit of a tick on each one of them. So back here and here. That one's almost none. So anyways, that fits real well now. That part's done. I want to put the top on, and I don't know if I'll have time in the next couple days to worry about putting a plate on top, but maybe next week. So that finishes my welding table reinforcement project. Hopefully there's been a few ideas in here that some of you guys out there can use. Be sure to check out my upcoming video where I'm going to be adding a top on here to stop things from falling through these slots, and to add some 5/8 holes that can be used for welding clamps. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you have comments, positive, negative, ideas that might also be used on this, or better ways to do it, please put them in the comments. I'd like to hear from you, and thanks for watching.